This podcast is proudly sponsored by Philips OLED Plus Ambilight TV. OLED Plus is the name given to the multi-award-winning combination of the latest and best OLED panel technology, enhanced Philips P5 dual-engine picture processing, the next generation of Philips Ambilight, plus superb sound by Bowers & Wilkins. Philips OLED Plus delivers the best TV picture and sound quality as an immersive performance unmatched in the premium TV market. Discover more at www.philips.com/OLED.
Hello and welcome to the AV Forums podcast for Monday the 14th of November. Joining me on this edition are regulars Ed Selley and Ian Collen. Good evening, guys.
Hello, Phil.
And back again is Martin Dew, our new reviewer, and we're going to pick up with Martin very soon about his career because it's quite an extensive career and we didn't cover it all first time around. So welcome to the podcast, Martin.
Hello again. Don't
forget as well, the movies podcast is happening tonight. That will be at 8:30 this evening, and I believe it's Tom that's presenting the podcast tonight. So if you're into your movies as well as your hardware, remember to refresh after we go off about 8:05, and 8:30 the guys will be here with the movies podcast, so stay around for that. Also tonight, what are we talking about? Well, there's lots of things to get through this evening. You'll see in the description if you're watching live on YouTube right now what we're going to talk about. But for those of you who are joining us a little bit later in the week and maybe audio only, tonight we're going to be talking about two LCD TVs from TCL and Hisense. Ed's going to cover some Triangle speakers. Martin's looking at an SVS Micro subwoofer. We're also going to get the latest news and views from the world of AV, home cinema and hi-fi from Ian, as always. We're going to talk about setting up your TV and projector for the World Cup. It's starting very soon. It's this month. So what are the best settings that we recommend for your TV? We'll go through some of the options for you this evening on that, and we'll probably follow that up on the next podcast while the World Cup is still on, and we can then sample some of the 4K HDR pictures that will be coming through from that event. We're also going to answer your questions tonight. So the chat is open, as always. If you have any questions this evening for any of the team that's here covering any of the subjects we're covering tonight, then you can put your questions in the chat window. We'll get round to them this evening. And again, if you're listening a little bit later in the week, it's podcast@avforums.com. Send your questions in and we'll get around to answering them on the next podcast. Right, so that's housekeeping out of the way. I'm going to tell you right now, I managed to get tickets for Peter Kay. Did anybody else manage to get tickets?
I didn't try. Did you get them at face value?
Yes, and I got them pre-sale. So I got them through, it's the first time I've ever used my 3+ rewards. I've been with 3 about 5 years, never used it. But this is the one occasion where I thought, I'm going to use this and see if it works. And I managed to get pre-sale tickets. We're in the heavens. We're miles away from the stage and so on. But the last time I saw him was 2010 at the Manchester Arena, and I don't think he's toured since then. So yeah, wanted tickets. I managed to get them. So yeah, that's what I've been doing, and lots of work, as you probably noticed on the front page of the site. Lots of TV reviews going up ahead of the TV awards. Again, it's one of these years where everything is turned up late. There's still supply chain issues and models taking a little bit longer than they normally do to turn up. So that's why there's been a whole raft of TV reviews, and the TV awards have been a little bit later than they normally are. So that's what I've been up to. Martin, what have you been up to since the last podcast?
Doing a little bit for AV Forums. I also do quite a bit of consulting for a number of different organizations, and I've been to the Paris Audio Video Show last weekend, no less.
Okay, I've never heard of this show, so maybe explain a little bit about it.
Well, it's kind of the biggest hi-fi show for that market, and it's a little bit unique in that it starts on a Saturday and Sunday for public access, and then the trade day is actually on the Monday. So Saturday and Sunday are public, and then they have their trade day. They have a short press evening on the Friday as well. But I was helping out there with a distributor called PPL, and we had literally hundreds of people to the booth. It was thronging, and I believe that is something to do with the post-COVID nature of
Yeah.
trade shows now. So
Yeah.
very, very promising, and quite heartwarming to see so many people coming back.
Yeah, no, that's good. And was there lots of manufacturer support, or was it mainly distributors? Because one thing with IFA this year was that it was none of the global offices that brought anything over. It was all the local. So it was Sony Germany, and Philips didn't take their normal space and so on. So was it well supported?
I would say well supported, mostly probably distributors rather than individual manufacturers, but very well supported by the manufacturers. I mean, I would say there were a lot of the top bods from a lot of the hi-fi and AV companies there. So yeah, I would say very encouraging, and I saw a lot of people that I know, and it was great.
Excellent, good stuff. And we'll come back to you to discuss a little bit more about your career in a jiffy. Ed, what have you been up to?
Sorry, was that me?
Yeah.
Sorry,
You're the only Ed
the reason
on the
I wandered
podcast.
off, my internet is absolutely catastrophic this evening, and I thought I'd go up and shout at my son for using it, but he's not. So it's just catastrophic. I also have tickets to an event next year. It's not Peter Kay. I've got tickets to another bloke called Peter Gabriel. That's in June.
He's not
inconsequentially expensive, but that's all sorted. And then I've celebrated 5 weeks after the last time I've had to replace a not inconsequentially expensive tyre on my car because it had a screw in. Tomorrow, I'm off to replace a tyre on my car because it's got a screw in. So I'm feeling a little karmic injustice at the moment.
Is it inside the tread? Are you going to be able to plug it?
I'm not. I'd in a public arena, I don't want to necessarily extend on my thoughts as to why I'm unwilling to repair tyres, but suffice to say, I just don't think it's the best idea I could possibly have. It is just about inside the tread areas, but it's sufficiently close to the corner that I'm not happy with it. Yeah. Okay. So, if you do work for Continental, happy Christmas. And so that's been sorted. Obviously, post-editor's choice, I've got to now do some work for some other people. But I will be returning to AV Forums reviews towards the back end of the month. Already some interesting things are starting to turn up and be shaken down. So, yeah, business as usual, really. I suppose the other thing is that on Wednesday, I'm off to see the live version of Upstart Crow, which I'm quite looking forward to as well. It's my mother's very belated 70th birthday present, which, considering she was 70 in 2020, tells you everything you need to know about what's happened in the last few years there. So, yeah, it's all pretty good. I'd just like to stop buying tyres if I could. So, yeah.
Yeah, they're not cheap these days, especially if you've got a performance car like you, Ed. You need to put something that's going to keep it on the road. Right, who have you missed? Oh, yes, Ian, what video games have you been playing?
Football Manager 23 for the most part. There's a review up on the site, is the short version of it. But yeah, it's one of those games that year on, I'll play it every now and then. Like I'll miss a year and then get back into it, and I'll play it for a little bit and then I'll get back into it again. But I'd never really kind of immerse myself like I did back in the Champion heyday era when I'd play it religiously for days and weeks. But yeah, this year it's free up on Xbox and PC Game Pass, so there's not really a reason to ignore it. And I'm kind of worried that I might be dangerously close to getting hooked into it again, because I got off to quite a good start with a decent team, and I'm quite worried that I might now be committed to another 20 odd seasons of it. Which is not good, both either for all the rest of the stuff that I need to be doing. But yeah, I've got a managerial career ahead of me at Worthing.
Well done. And have you managed to get out the house?
No, got some big transfers to sort out first. That's my priority, and then I'll worry about eating later.
Okay, good stuff. Well, that's what everybody's been up to. So let's move back to Martin. So for those that don't know, give a very brief recap of what we discussed last time, Martin, and then let's get into your acting career.
Well, I think I last time explained a little bit about my 22 years in the US, specifically California, and I was very lucky to get a job with Lucasfilm in their THX division, and worked with them for 10 years in sales and marketing. I started in residential, moved into pro. I then went down to LA and worked with an ex-boss of mine from Lucasfilm. We set up an office for NEC Corporation, the large Japanese company, and specifically dealing with 2K digital cinema projectors. They closed that office down in 2009. And so I was at a loose end. I was thinking of coming back to Blighty at that point. But actually, a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, Britt, who is a producer with DreamWorks and Steven Spielberg's first assistant director, no less, asked if I would come over to England and work on Warhorse, because I had trained as an actor. And so my friend said, well, come along and work as a stand-in. And the stand-ins are the people who literally stand in front of the camera while the cinematographer lines up a shot, and so the director is happy with what he sees, because obviously flesh tones are quite difficult to get right, and this is why they use stand-ins before the actors come in to do their shots. So anyway, I worked on Warhorse as a what's called a utility stand-in, but then there was one role that was uncast, which was Lion's Crony, which was David Thewlis's sort of henchman. And so in the first act of the film, every time David Thewlis is on set, I'm with him, I'm his sidekick, and I carry his umbrella for him. And so that was a really great fun thing to do, and I got a credit in the film and all that good stuff. I went back to LA, I managed to get myself an agent, and also joined the Screen Actors Guild, which is the union which is quite difficult to get into, but once you're in, you're looked after very well, because of course every time you get a credit in a movie or a TV show, you get a little piece of the pie for the rest of your life from that movie. I also managed to work with Paul Thomas Anderson on a couple of movies. I was in The Master. I played a British character called Norman Conrad. I was also in Inherent Vice. And through my agent, I got a little role in Mad Men, playing an English businessman. I was also on the Conan TV show doing an Apple sketch. And then I worked extensively, actually, with Will Ferrell's online comedy troupe called Funny or Die. And I think probably by virtue of the fact that I had an English accent and probably a slightly zany sense of humor by their measurement. So that was what I ended up doing as well. So I had quite an interesting time over the 4 years or so that I decided to dip my toe in again. But I don't think I would necessarily go back into it again. I did sort of very well out of it, but it's really getting from that level to the next, which is really the tough bit. You know, the tough thing is when you're going beyond being what they call day players to becoming, you know, co-stars and stars. And that's quite a challenge. So, and also, I think that's an easier thing to contemplate when you're in your 20s than when you're in your 50s, which I was starting to push at that point.
Yeah, no, it sounds really, really interesting. It's you've had some career, so why are you reviewing AV equipment? I'm sure everybody's asking that question.
Oh, do you know, I think I've tried my hand at too many things, but I think I said in the last podcast, I absolutely adore home cinema, and I think I've got a good ear. I've had a lot of exposure to it as well, through career and through hobby, and I love writing as well. So in fact, one of my jobs outside AV forums is doing PR consulting for a number of companies, and of course I wrote for Home Cinema Choice and one or two other magazines. I write quite regularly for Essential Install as well as a ghostwriter. So so yes, I love the written word, and love home cinema as well.
Excellent, good stuff. So welcome to the team once again. Look out for Martin's reviews. We're going to touch on one of the products he has been reviewing for us very soon. But I think it's time for competitions. So Ed, what can we win?
Sorry, I'll unmute there. Right. Okay. You can win a DJI Mini 2 with MPB. DJI Mini 2 is the product. MPB are the very kind people donating it. And then you can also win the ultimate streaming amplifier, courtesy of Roxanne, which is an Atessa streaming amplifier. There's a review of that on the site. It is extremely good. That's worth 1,500 quid. So that's worth, filling in a couple of boxes for. There are no listed competition winners. They'll come in a big block at some point in the not too distant future, and all competitions are open to eligible AV Forums members in the UK except Phil, basically. So fill your boots, get stuck in.
Excellent, thanks for that, Ed. Right, so we'll be back in a second to get the show on the road.
If you'd like to support the AV Forums podcast on a regular basis, then why not become a patron? Head over to patreon.com/AV Forums to sign up. You can also make a one-off donation through the Super Chat or via streamlabs.com/AV Forums. All donations help us to improve the website and the podcasts. Thank you to all our supporters.
Spread it around a little bit. Right, so we do have some new patrons. Ian, why don't tell us who's new and who's now supporting the podcast and AV Forums?
Sure thing. Looks like we've got 6 new patrons who are Sam Mace, Stephen Green, Stephen Barnett, Tim Sanders, Doc Jim, and Big Ben Chunk. I'm not sure that last one's his real name.
Okay.
But thanks to everybody for signing up.
Yeah, thank you very much for your support. It really is appreciated. Welcome along as a patron. Of course, we've got new levels for patrons now, so go check out the patron site and it will tell you what you can get with the different levels of membership. Some of it is to see our content way ahead of everybody else, which is worth something to you. Then get yourself up there and get signed up. Right, so let's move on. We're going to talk news. Let's do AV news first, and a big bit of news for a lot of TV manufacturers out there and a lot of people waiting on gaming features. Ian?
Yes, it's MediaTek who have unveiled their new system-on-chip processing chipset, which is called the Pentonic 1000. It doesn't seem too dissimilar to the Pentonic 2000, which launched last year for 8K TVs. But this new chip will be for 4K TVs, also supporting 120 hertz models as well. So it's kind of nicely blended towards gamers as well as your general 4K streaming TV needs. Adds a few new features or support for features such as Dolby Vision IQ. It's got Wi-Fi 6, MEMC, and MediaTek's own Intelligent View technology. Also, with the added bonus, the potential for 4 HDMI 2.1 ports as well, which I'm sure some manufacturers will appreciate. Due to launch Q1 2023, so there's no word as yet as to what manufacturers, or more specifically what models, will be using the Pentonic 1000 processing system. But it will certainly be very interesting to see what people can do with it and what models it applies to.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, this one, and I think it just missed the 2022 models in terms of development as well. So for those that want to know, Panasonic, Sony, Philips, and some of the Samsung models use the system on chip from MediaTek. And the drawback has been that on Selley LE models, you were only getting half vertical resolution on 4K 120 displays. The Philips is still the same on the double chip models. So the OLED Plus 937 I've just reviewed, it will only do half vertical resolution for 4K 120 because it uses a dual chip approach with the MediaTek. So this is a long time coming. The other thing is obviously Sony, Panasonic, and Philips, they've only been able to offer 2 HDMI 2.1 inputs so far. So this will allow them to add 4 and catch up with Samsung and LG, who tend to do their own system on chip stuff for that kind of thing as well. So it's looking good. And of course it's full 48 gigabits per second on there as well. So and I do believe you get 3.2 USBs. I'm just quickly checking my notes. Yeah. So you get Gen 1 3.2 USB inputs as well. So it looks like it's finally going to answer a lot of people's prayers when it comes to their favourite manufacturers and their favourite TVs, because it's been one of the big complaints when I've reviewed the sets and you look at the comments, most people are saying, well, there's only 2 HDMI 2.1 inputs. Usually one of those two inputs also is EARC, which means if you want to use eARC, you're losing a 2.1 input to do that as well. So yeah, 4 coming along is great. So that's good news AV wise. And then hi-fi.
Yeah, a couple of quick stories here. SVS has announced the new Prime Wireless Pro speaker system, which is due to launch next month. Company's obviously better known for its range of subwoofers, as Martin will attest to shortly, I'm sure. But this new arrival builds on the Prime Wireless models, and it doubles up as both a 2-channel speaker system plus network streaming via Bluetooth.
Yeah, I mean, I tested the original one of these, and it was very good. I thought this was worth bringing up because we're going to be talking about a very similar product in the review section. This is, I mean, actually, the SVS is at the towards the upper end of pricing for a device of this nature. But we've looked at a few of these now. This is the shape of affordable hi-fi for a lot of people. I mean, building a complete separate system, it's still possible at quite tight budgets, but this is a very, very straightforward and well thought out way of making affordable stereo systems. I'm pleased SVS is part of it, but we are going to see a few more of them. They make a lot of sense. I mean, they make more sense, if you like, as standalone audio systems than connecting TVs. I mean, the SVS has got an HDMI ARC connection, and I'm sure it'll work brilliantly, same as it does on the Klipsch, the 5s, and some other candidates. Just remember that rather than the cable running elegantly down to a device directly below the television, it's going to set off at a jaunty angle towards something on either side of the television, so it can end up looking like a bit of a mess. But nevertheless, this is these are important bits of kit. This is, if you like, starting to fill the gap between sort of self-contained Bluetooth speakers and then full fat stereo systems. So I will try and get one in as soon as one is available.
Well, actually, I think Martin's beat you to.
Oh, fine, then I won't.
Because Martin's done the sub, so I think we're just waiting on the wireless pros coming into stock.
Oh, fair enough.
Martin's going to do a full system review as well as review these separately, aren't you? So
yeah.
There you go. He's beat you to it, Ed.
No, that's fine.
Right, and there was also one other story, hi-fi wise.
Yeah, this one's courtesy of Audiolab, who have unveiled the first additions to its brand new 9000 series, which will be launching with the 9000A integrated amplifier and the 9000 CDT, which is a CD player. Basically, they're building on the 6000 series, from what I understand, but these take flagship status in the company's lineup, priced at £1,999 for the amp, £999 for the CD player. And the amp's described as its best ever, and the CD player obviously is a perfect companion for it. Both of those models are due to launch some point this month, and they'll be followed in the new year by the 9000N dedicated audio. So it looks like it could be quite a happy family to come from Audiolab.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth pointing out that the last two Audiolab integrateds, the 8300A and the 6000A, have both been absolutely brilliant. So I have reasonably high hopes for this. Also worth noting, just a minor point of pedantry. What Audiolab does is quite clever. The integrated amps have got digital inputs in them. So when they offer a matching CD unit, it's just a transport. You don't pay for the decoding twice. So you simply use a digital connection, either optical or coaxial, to go from the back of the CD player into the amp. And it works extremely well. It's the sort of thing that allows for you to essentially only be paying for the bits of hardware that you need, which is why the CDT is half the price of the amplifier. So it's a nice idea. I'm not going to lie, the displays look a bit alarming to me. They've got these whacking great full color displays on the side of the unit. I'll reserve judgment until I can see them for real. I'm not 100% sure what they will look like then, but the chances are they're going to sound excellent, because most of the things that Audiolab's done the last 4 years have sounded excellent. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Thank you very much for the news, Ian, as always. Remember, the chat window is open. If you have any questions this evening for the guys here or for myself while we go through the reviews, then get your questions in. We'll try and answer them this evening. And again, if you're listening to the podcast a little bit later in the week, the recorded version or the audio only, podcast at avforums.com on the email is the best option. Or you can put your question into the podcast forum underneath this podcast. Just ask your question in there and we'll get around to that as well. And just before we go on, Jimmy Crane 1986 has donated £5 to the super chat, it looks like. So thank you very much for that. That really is appreciated. Thank you for your support, guys. Right, so we're going to move on to reviews. Let's stick with Ed. And let's talk about those speakers that you were on about when we were talking about the SVSs. Tell us a little bit more about Triangle.
We've actually looked at the passive version of this speaker before. The Borea BR03 is an absolutely sensational passive stand mount. They are £400 list. You can often frequently find them for less than that. Triangle has very logically decided to turn that into a powered speaker system. It is not an active speaker. One of the speakers has got a stereo amplifier in, which sits behind the crossover. Sorry, let's get this right. The crossover is not powered. Let's leave it at that. And essentially, one of the other speakers, the other speaker that comes with it, is completely passive. The most bizarre thing about this is that it's not exactly the same as a normal BR03. If you look at the review for that, you'll find that that has got bass ports on the front, and this has bass ports on the back for both the powered and the passive version. So at some point, it would be technically possible to compare the one that I like very much with the ports at the front with the one that ports at the back, if you were bored, I guess. The key thing about this is that it's a whisker over 500, 600 pounds, I think. Hang on a second, let me actually get the review up. And also, like the standard passive version, you can find it online for some absolutely blinding deals. And it's extremely good. It's extremely good once you do something that is a bit bizarre. The out-of-the-box settings for this product are some of the worst I've encountered on any product for as long as I've been testing or reviewing. They are astonishingly bad. I do not know at Triangle who signed off and went, yeah, that's exactly what we want customers to hear the first time they turn this product on. But it's ballsy. I'll give them that. It's dreadful. But the moment that you correct that and turn the super bass function off or whatever they're calling it, this is a very, very nice product. Connectivity is a decent Bluetooth implementation, coaxial, optical, and a line input that can also be switched to be a phono stage, which is very fashionable at the moment. I don't actually know how many people will bother to do it. But it's fundamentally the connectivity that you need to get up and running. And at the price, it's exceptionally good. As I say, once you turn the interesting processing settings that Triangle has as standard, there's a lot to like here. At the price, it's very, very hard to fault it. I would say sonically, it's very, very close to the Q Acoustics M20, which is ridiculously good, and it's better looking than the Q Acoustics, and it is able to go quite a bit louder than the Q Acoustics as well. There's a fair bit more power on offer here. So it's another instance of Triangle making very, very good, affordable products. And as I say, this is an ideal, if you're looking at how do I start with a hi-fi system, something like this is a very, very cost-effective way of getting a decent stereo image. I mean, yes, your upgrade options are a bit more limited than going for a full true separate system, but there's a lot to like here. It's a very, very capable piece of kit, and it sounds excellent, and it looks pretty good too. The review will be up later on, a couple of days' time, I imagine. If you have any further questions about it, do let me know. But hopefully most of those questions will be answered in the review, because it's good, 2,200 words of it. So I think I get most things covered.
If you're a patron with early access, you'll be seeing that probably 2 days before everybody else as well. So that will be
nice.
Going up very soon. Right, so let's turn to some TVs. I'm going to review two LCD TVs. Well, the reviews are up. I'm just going to cover them very briefly because some of the comments have come in now. Can you know what you guys want to know about these TVs a little bit further? So the first one is a TCL 55-inch C735K. It's an entry-level, very affordable TV, now available for under £500. And it's one of these questions I get all the time, Phil, what's the best TV under £500? Well, this one actually goes under that. It's It's a typical LCD TV in terms of it's a global dimming, so it doesn't have local dimming at all. It doesn't have any zones. It's just a global dimming backlight that's on here. It is a QLED, so there are quantum dots in here in terms of color. It also covers the majority, if not all, of current HDR formats. And this is important at this price point, that you have Dolby Vision and you have HDR10+. They are dynamic metadata systems. They are designed to get the content into the TV in terms of the TV's capabilities. If you think about it like you've got 5 litres of beer and you want to get it into a 2-litre jug, you do that through your tone mapping, through your metadata. You tell the TV what it should look like, and the TV says, well, this is how I can display it, and it's the best possible way of fitting it in there, because at this price point you're talking 350 nits of peak brightness, which is well below what you will get from a decent OLED at 600-700 nits. And then, you know, a higher end LED LCD TV will and mini LED will be, you'll be looking at 1400-1500 nits. So there is quite a bit of difference. But of course, you got the tone mapping. You got Dolby Vision and HDR10+, which manages to get the content looking pretty good. There are issues with this TV. It is an LCD TV, so you're going to get the usual constraints with the technology in terms of viewing angles, in terms of some milky looking blacks in mixed scenes and so on. There's absolutely nothing you can do about that in terms of the market position that this TV's at. But used in a normal living room, good lighting. And a great mixture of content, not just films. If all you do is watch films on it, you will see a lot of the issues come through on the TV quite a bit. But if you're mixed viewing in terms of TV programs, documentaries, films, sports, that kind of thing, motion was fairly good at this price point. It's not going to be perfect, but it was good. And again, smart TV, offering everything you could possibly need on there from TCL. So in terms of value for money, it does have its issues. I mentioned this in the reviews. It's a VA panel, so blacks are better than an IPS panel, which we're going to come on to in a minute with the Hisense. But again, you're not going to get perfect blacks in because there's no local dimming in here and so on. So yeah, just bear that in mind. But if you're looking for a second room TV, or you're looking for a good gaming TV, because gaming wise it's excellent as well. 2 HDMI 2.1 inputs. It will take 4K at 144 hertz. So very good HDMI 1 for that. So yeah, good little TV from TCL. It scored well. What didn't score well was the Hisense, the Hisense 55U8H. In the UK it's U8HQ because it is completely different to all the videos that you've watched on YouTube that have praised the Hisense U8H. It's not the same TV in the UK. You need to understand this before you go and spend any money on this TV. In the US, it has around about, I think it's 400 to 500 zones, and it has a VA panel. In the UK, it's an IPS panel. It's 130 zones, or around about 130 zones, which means that in terms of blooming, in terms of other issues, in terms of clouding and so on, it's not good. The backlight really lets this set down. It's such a promising set because it has a lot to like about it. It has a lot of good technology on there. So all the HDR formats supported. HDMI 2.1, lots of gaming features in there, 4K 120 and so on, 2 HDMI 2.1 inputs. And again, a fairly decent price point when it comes to mini LED, but it's just poorly implemented, and it's not implemented in the same way as the US set or the sets abroad. The European sets seem to be completely different specs, and I really don't understand this. And whoever made that decision at Hisense needs to shake their head and sort things out, because we really should have the same technology globally. People are going out and buying this TV, believing it to be the TV that a lot of YouTubers are testing, and it's not the same TV at all. It's completely different. So yeah, it didn't score very well. It scored 6 out of 10. And that comes down to really poor local dimming algorithm being used, and a really poor implementation of that, because there was, lots of haloing, lots of, issues with the backlight. And again, viewing angles for an IPS panel, it was really poor. Normally the strength with an IPS panel is viewing angles and color. and you give up a little bit in terms of black levels and contrast. On this set, you give up your black levels, you give up your contrast, you also give up your viewing angles, and it's not good news, especially if you're a film fan, you like watching films with mixed scenes, dark scenes, that kind of thing. It really suffers, and it doesn't look particularly good. So I'm hoping that Hisense take our feedback on and how it's intended. At the end of the day, we never give a product a kicking. We'll never, go hard on a product just for the sake of going hard for the product to make a point. What we like to try and do is we try and push manufacturers to improve the product. And in this case, what I'd say at Hisense is give us the same specs as you give in the US. The US, it's getting a great, reviews from reviewers out there who really like what it's doing, and it sounds completely different to what we're getting in the UK. And unfortunately, the model in the UK is poor. Even at the price point, it's not that well done, and hopefully Hisense will take a look at that and change it up and maybe improve the product. So there you go. That's 2 reviews you will find on the homepage at the moment. Lots of TV reviews up there. I could have spoken about the Philips OLED Plus 937. We won't. We'll save that for Wednesday night. So Wednesday night, we're back again with a live podcast. We're going to be discussing the Editor's Choice Awards for TVs. So this is our best TVs of 2022. If you want to know what we thought and so on, it's on the homepage now. So you can go and you can read the full article on there, the full list of winners, and why we think they are winners. And on Wednesday night, Jules is going to join me. He's not here tonight because he's in Italy on a video calibration course, training other calibrators, but he's going to join us on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. For the live stream. We're going to go through the whole list of winners, so join us for that on Wednesday night. And if you can't join us live, there will be the audio podcast. And if you check out AV Forums Podcasts, which is a separate YouTube channel to AV Forums, you'll find all our podcast content on there, and you'll find it where it's shortened down into nice little bite-size versions of the podcast. So you can just jump in and find what the subject matter is that you like and listen or watch that section of the podcast. So please go over there and please subscribe to that channel. We'd like to get up to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so help us do that. And you can find the podcasts nice and easy on there. Nice little snippets. You don't have to sit for an hour and a half, listen to things. You can jump to exactly what you want to know about straight away. So remember to go there and subscribe. And of course, if you are watching tonight or you're watching a little bit later on, please subscribe to the main channel and like this podcast if you don't mind. Right, so we're going to move on. We're going to go to Martin next. And Martin, you've been looking at an SVS Micro subwoofer. Tell us all about it.
Yes, well, I think the SVS name is going to drive more business and certainly eyes in the coming years. In the US, they're almost becoming a household name, not least because their customer service is second to none. And I guess their style is a little bit brash. I mean, they are the archetypal 2-for-1 offer type company, and you'll see that all over their website as well. But their customer service is superb, and so are their warranties. And they have, having started in 1998, actually, we started in a garage type backstory. They've now got a huge range of subwoofers for all sizes of rooms and all applications. We've got their reference PB and SB 16 Ultra subwoofers. One is ported, one not. And then going down the scale, we've got the 3000, 2000, and 1000 series. Now, they all get extremely well reviewed, particularly for their price-performance ratio, if you like, but not necessarily for their articulacy. So I was very interested to hear this sub. The SVS 3000 Micro is clearly optimized, I would say, for small apartments, and probably therefore should get good traction here in Europe. And of course, there is a white version of this as well, even though I reviewed the piano black gloss version, which is a beautiful little thing. It's an 11 by 11 by 11 cuboid and can literally go anywhere. It's so unobtrusive. But the performance from this thing is really incredible. I'm not sure it would, in terms of, like I said, that articulacy would be perhaps as musical or as sensitive as one of my alternate suggestions, which was the KEF KC92, particularly based on the KEF KF92, which I reviewed for the site. However, what you do get for the price for £1,000, and that's £100 more expensive than it was just last year, is an incredible amount of power, a big weighted soundstage. It's nice to hear. It's very good on music, surprisingly good on music. I did not expect that to happen. When you go up the scale in volume, though, it tends to get a bit muddy, so it's not designed for a large room, clearly, but the footprint would suggest that it is for a smaller room. But yeah, I was really impressed. It comes with a fantastic app. You may have already heard about the SVS app. The SVS apps are hugely praised, not least for all the features. There is a 3-band parametric EQ. There are presets that you can inform yourselves, and there's just an awful lot you can do with it if you want to tweak. The default factory setting is set up already for home cinema, so the low pass filter is turned right up to, I think it's 240 hertz, and phase and polarity are already set. The only thing you can change after you use the home cinema default is you can boost the volume a little bit if you think it's a little low. But like I said, for a small room, this is a fantastic little piece of kit and can highly recommend. And like I said, it's not cheap, but if you want this kind of performance, this is what you're going to have to spend. If you wanted the KEF KC62, you've got to jump up to £1,600. So, and of course, you'll get a little bit more refinement with that, but the KEF will give you the muscle. And SVS is definitely kind of they are the muscle car, if you like, of the AV or hi-fi industry. And of course, I'll be looking forward to reviewing these powered monitors when they come through as well.
Excellent. Thanks very much for that, Martin. Of course, Martin's review is on the website. So if you want to deep dive into that, you can go and have a look at that. Right, so guys, are we interested in the World Cup? Are you going to be watching? Yeah, Ian, I imagine you're a big football fan. And you're also muted.
Yes. Yeah, it's one of those where there's obviously like a bit of an ethical debate about the whole Qatar scenario, but it's one of those where it's the World Cup and you'd be hard pressed to avoid it on a good day. So yeah, I'll probably still be following it. Probably, it'll make for quite welcome sort of background noise with the time frame. But yeah, not hugely overly optimistic of England's chances, but it should still be mildly entertaining, I'd imagine.
Okay, Mark.
Yes, I'll watch. I'm not a huge footy fan, more of a cricket person myself, but I always watch all the international games. So yes, I will be following England.
Okay, good stuff. And Ed, are you watching any? No, I don't think so.
A thoroughly unpleasant exercise. This one, I don't have a no. As I say, often I will quite contentedly watch international competitions. I thoroughly enjoyed the Euros, but this is. I don't want to encourage it. It's at the wrong time. It's in the wrong place. The circumstances of how it came to be in that place are a matter of public record, and they are thoroughly unedifying for all concerned. I simply don't want to encourage them.
Okay.
Well, the only thing I'm going to say that I will, I enjoy the, if you like, the sort of Moneyball end of sport along these sort of things. I do think that there's a good chance that the run-in second half of the season after this disjointed, out-of-place World Cup is going to be quite entertainingly unpredictable because it's just going to affect psyche. There'll be players who haven't done anything for 3 weeks. There will also be people who are dog-tired. I just think it could end up making the table quite wonky at the other end. And once it's been out of Qatar, I'm quite interested to see how that plays out.
Yep, good points. I think Martin's gone to VAR here. I think we're trying to make out what he's. It looks like he's frozen on my screen. I don't know if he's still there. Martin, are you still there? No, we'll try and get Martin back. We've broken him, unfortunately. Right. So talking about World Cup, how are you going to watch it? Well, you know I'm going to watch it on a TV or a projector. So what are the best settings? Well, I'm not going to talk about best settings because that's very subjective in terms of what you think is best, but in terms of what is accurate and what you can put your TV into to see it as it's intended and mastered to be seen, it's always going to be a picture mode on your TV called Cinema, THX, Professional, Reference, Pure, True Cinema, Hollywood Theatre, or something similar to that. It's going to be the picture mode that basically puts the TV into the mode that all monitors are in when the professionals are making these programs and taking the live feeds and all the rest of it. So this is really quite simple, really, is go to your picture mode and put it in the most accurate mode. And like I say, it's normally called Cinema or THX or Professional or Reference or Pure or ISF or True Cinema. One of those picture modes, whatever TV you have, different brands have different names, but they're all kind of round about the same. I think the only one I've not got there is Custom, which is Sony's. So if you put it into Custom. The other thing I keep getting asked is motion. Well, motion, it depends on the TV, because when you're talking about sports, you're talking about 50 hertz in the UK. This is where motion can get a little bit choppy depending on the TV that you're using. So if you switch the motion processing off, and it still doesn't quite look right, if it's still a little bit juddery or whatever, especially if you're watching on an OLED, because of the sample and hold on an OLED, it can look a little bit odd. You can go into the motion settings, and if you go to the custom settings and turn both sliders for blur and judder down, or deblur, I should say, if you turn them down to 0 and then experiment at your end and see what difference it makes. And when I say that, I mean like take it up to 1. Don't take it any further than that, probably. You'll probably find that maybe 1 is going to be the solution for you in terms of just getting rid of whatever it is that you're seeing in terms of motion. But overall, modern TVs nowadays, they're very good in terms of motion. And like I say, if you put the picture mode into the most accurate mode, you're then getting colours correct. The colour of white is correct, which is really important. And again, we're talking about stadiums that are going to have a lot of shadow, a lot of bright light. Hopefully, production-wise, they're going to get that correct in terms of trying to get exposure right. But, you know, a camera can only do so much. And even in HDR, there are limitations. And we will get games in HDR. But yeah, the most accurate mode, like I say, I've named the modes. If you want any more information, our Picture Perfect guide, it's on our website. It's been around for over a decade now, because a lot of these things don't change. The reason why TVs come with new funky features is to sell you them. It doesn't mean they're any good, especially picture modes. Manufacturers, they're always pushing the brightest, most colourful modes. They're usually the ones that look garish, and you're actually losing detail because it's pushing too much brightness, and people's faces start to look like everybody's taking Botox. If you're watching Made in Chelsea, it probably is the case. Go into a proper channel and watch faces, and you can see if you're losing detail, if things look too smooth and so on. So like I say, Picture Perfect, it's on the website. You'll find it in the drop-down menus. Go watch the videos. Put your TV in the right modes and enjoy the World Cup. And if you've got any questions, you can get them into the chat window here. We're around for a few more minutes yet. Or go to the podcast forum underneath this podcast, ask your questions, and we shall answer them. Right, so I've swapped to that and lost my running order. I'm trying to remember what's next. Oh yeah, we've had some donations. So thank you very much to everybody who has donated so far. So Flix, you've donated £5. Keep up the good work, guys. Watch out for the question coming up. I will do. I'm looking for your question. We'll see it in a minute, hopefully. Borio Zero donated £2. He said, video review of U8 HQ showing blooming motion angles. There is a video review. It's going to be a little while coming, mainly because we've had editor's choice and I've been swamped trying to get reviews through just so we could get the awards done. Now that that's out of the way, I'll fall back and I'll start putting the videos. We've shot all the footage. I just need to edit and put them out. So keep an eye on our channel here. Subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell. It'll tell you when new content's coming up. And like I say, some of those video reviews shall be coming up. So I hope that answers your question there. And Vix Mix, he donated £10. Thank you very much. That really is appreciated. Thank you for all your support, guys. It really is appreciated. So let's move on and wrap up tonight's podcast by going to Ed. And Ed, what is your album recommendations, vinyl, and playlist this week?
Yeah, I need to make sure I get this the right way round. It's very French this week. Right, album of the week. Christine and the Queens, Héloïse Letizier. This is his third album. The first album was her first album. Things have moved on since then. It's the snappily titled Red Car Les Adorables Étoiles, and I'm sure I've murdered that. Christine and the Queens is just genuinely innovative, clever, and enjoyable music. This one is perhaps the densest of the three that there's been so far, and it has moments that are downright odd, but it balances that with some moments that are downright brilliant. I've really, really enjoyed it. Something that's worth noting, I mean, very few people will be as excited about this as I am. If you are a Qobuz subscriber, the version on there is in 176.4 kilohertz, which is vanishingly rare as a sample rate, which is great because I'm always looking for something in that to actually test that something works at that sample rate. So I was delighted to find that. It means I can bookmark it and use it in the future. For the rest of you, I dare say it's just a curiosity. It's obviously on all the other major streaming services, and it's available on vinyl. But vinyl release of the month is a band I've loved for years. They're called Scalpel, with a K. They are Polish. And this album is called Origins. I can't remember if it's the 5th or the 6th. And it's extremely good. They started very much as a sort of jazz sort of setup on Ninja Tune. They've sort of moved the sound on from then. I really, really like this, and other people who I've sent it to have gone, yeah, actually, that's a good listen as well. So it's not just me, and all of the Scalpel albums I've ever purchased on vinyl have always been extremely good. So it gets the vinyl nod for this one. I haven't got a copy here to show you. It's on order. I'm sort of regretting that now. I have to buy a tyre, but it is nevertheless on order. And playlist. Last podcast, I did something quite pretentious. It was LA in the 80s and 90s. This isn't pretentious at all. Deezer has just put together something they've imaginatively titled 90s Electronic, and it has every single wave your arms around banger that you could realistically ask for in one place. And just listen to it and feel gloriously nostalgic. If you're looking for something cerebral, you've come to the wrong place, but it's genuinely enjoyable. So yeah, always worth a go. It has really, really, really been a good couple of weeks for music. So this is very edited highlights. Mention also goes, if you are of a certain age, on Friday, Guns N' Roses re-released Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 with additional material. And when I say additional material, I mean there's 7 hours of it. And I'm pleased to say it's not just one rendition of November Rain. I didn't want to put it as album of the week. It's quite entertaining to listen to because there's just a huge amount of the excess and sort of just bombast that were Guns N' Roses at that period. It's quite entertaining if you've got a spare 7 hours to fill. So that too. There's been loads of other good things as well. I mean, there's a new Springsteen album. I wasn't particularly blown away by it, but I'll have to face my brother and confess that at some other point. But yeah, loads and loads of good stuff at the moment. Just get on streaming services, look at new music, and I'm sure you'll find something that you will really enjoy.
Yeah, been doing that a lot, and like I say, a lot of good stuff out there at the minute. Ed, thanks very much for your recommendations there. They're always worth their weight in gold. Before we go into what we're watching on TV, I've now found Flix's question. It's Brendan Garland. Do you want to answer this one, Martin? he's asking about his home theatre, dedicated home theatre room, 10 metres by 4 metres by 3 metres. How best to improve bass? Should I use DLBC? I don't listen to music. He's got a JVC NX5, 7.4.2 RCAM, AVR31, KEF R series and KEF CI series speakers, and a REL R505 and a REL Quake sub as well. So he wants to improve his bass. What kind of recommendations would you give him, Martin?
Yeah, so has he got two subwoofers there?
It looks like two RELs. I'm trying to make it out. Yeah, a REL R505 and a REL Quake.
Well, it's always a good idea to match subwoofers if at all possible, certainly in terms of drivers and all that good stuff, because if you really do want to cancel out the nulls properly and deal with your peaks and troughs, I would think two identically matched subs. You could also try placing them in the corners and use a little bit of the boundary gain as well. And more manufacturers are actually recommending that. So you will get a boost in certain frequencies, but you should get a nicer dispersion across the whole room.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the question. I'm assuming you want a better feeling of the bass. You're not looking for you won't get volume extension adding more subs. What you will do, like Martin says, is you try and even out what the subwoofer is doing within the room in terms of your peaks and nulls and troughs and nodes and all sorts. And probably a good way to start is maybe use a bit of software and actually measure the room first of all, and see where your issues are in terms of your frequencies and so on. The dog's playing with a toy in the corner, so just ignore the noises. Maybe look at that first of all, and understand the room a little bit more. The more you can do to correct the room, the less you need to do in terms of equipment. So the first thing that I did with my dedicated room was try and just figure out what the response is within the room, where speakers should be placed and so on, and then working from there, and maybe looking at some treatments as well. So you could look at putting some foam into the corners and creating bass traps, and that can even out your response within the room as well. I hope that answers your question.
And a lot more people, Phil, as well, are using the Room EQ Wizard Roo. Yeah. It's something I haven't had exposure to yet, but I very much want to do that. And people are getting incredible results with that. And it's not such an expensive solution either. Yeah. The only outlay is really for the microphone. The software is open source.
Yeah, absolutely. The more you understand your room, then you can start looking at equipment and looking at whether you need to buy a new subwoofer or just better positioning and a little bit of EQ added in might solve your issues, might fix what it is that you're looking for in terms of your bass. Thank you very much, Brendan, for your question. Hopefully that answers everything tonight. So wrapping up, let's look at what we've been looking at in terms of TV programs. I finally started Star Wars Andor. I am really enjoying it. It's not Star Wars, and I think that's why I'm enjoying it, because it's very much in the same vein as Rogue One was in terms of telling a Star Wars. They're actually talking about the war and the starting of the rebellion, and none of these people are good people morally, but they're doing things because they believe them to be right and so on. And I think it's a very interesting angle. So I've been getting into that. I've watched about 4 or 5 episodes now, and of course it's Lucasfilm, so it's beautifully produced, great effects, and very good. I've still got to start The Crown. I haven't started the latest season of The Crown, but I'll hopefully get into that this week. So that's me. Martin, what have you been watching?
Well, I just week before last, I worked through all of Get Back, which is this 1969 recording of the Beatles before the famous Let It Be concert and live album recording. And I know it's been controversial. Well, it is available, I should say, on Disney Plus to stream, but I actually use a service called Cinema Paradiso, where I get the discs sent to me in the mail, in the post, which is very much like how Netflix worked 15 years ago in the States. I like it because I can be guaranteed the best quality using hard media, of course, in my home cinema or using my TV. The one thing I would say about it, though, it came under a lot of criticism. It's shot on 16mm film. And the way Peter Jackson has dealt with it is to use DNR, which has the result of making facial textures look a little bit waxy and you lose some detail. But I think it was a good decision in this case because it really does look like it was shot yesterday. It's this extraordinary anachronism. I just recommend everybody to see it. It's just extraordinary. I had my mouth was agape. So highly recommended. And don't be put off by the DNR. I'm not a fan of heavy DNR on Blu-rays and movies because I want grain structure. But here I think it works really well.
Excellent. No, that's a really good choice. I watched the first episode of that when it came out originally. So yeah.
Yeah, it's long.
It's long, yeah. Like I say, I managed one episode. Ed, you won't have been watching anything?
Well, I'm still watching Taskmaster because it's brilliant. And MasterChef The Professionals is on.
Okay, excellent.
What more could you ask for? I mean, I know there are other things, but that's top television as far as I'm concerned. I did watch Top Gear as well, but me.
Yeah, Top Gear's a bit meh. Seen it, done it, been there. Need a new formula, guys. I think it's Bake Off final tomorrow, is it not? You're not into that, Ed?
Bake Off? No, I'm adrift on that. I always start with the best of intentions, and I realise I hate most of the contestants. Yeah,
well, I mean, at least you've only got 3 to hate if you watch.
It always loses out to MasterChef The Professionals. I just think the way that's produced, shot, and what they're doing. I've said it from these podcasts for years. It's one of my television highlights of the year. I unashamedly love it. So that's the choice I make.
Okay, and wrapping up, Ian, recommendations from you?
I've kind of bounced around a couple of films, a couple of TV series. Netflix originals I've been watching. The Good Nurse was pretty good. Enola Holmes 2 as well was half decent as well. Good, good sort of Saturday night entertainment stuff. Been watching some ads on Freevee to watch the new Bosch Legacy series, which was really good, even though it ends with like a mid-season cliffhanger type ending, which always kind of leaves you kind of wanting a little bit more. And also ad-free back on Netflix, watched the Bastard Son and the Devil Himself, which was sort of good fun, even though I thought they could have played up with a little bit more silliness, but that's still a really good watch as well.
Okay, excellent. Well, that's our choices for things to watch on the telly box. If you're looking for something to watch at loose end, then hopefully you'll find something there. But that's it for the podcast this week. The next Hardware and Movies podcasts will be on the 28th of November, so get that in your diaries, and of course the podcasts are always around once they've been live for you to watch or listen at a future date, so please do, and of course subscribe to the channel. My thanks go to Ed, Ian and Martin this week. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And coming up next, it's the Movies Podcast. And if you enjoyed this podcast, then like I say, give it a like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. And of course, you can do Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. You know how it all works nowadays on social. We're there. Go join us and like everything that we do if you like it. And of course, if you're listening on a provider and they give you an opportunity to leave a rating for this podcast, then please do. It really does help us. And of course, hit that like button. That really helps things as well. I'm Phil Hinton. Thank you very much for watching and listening. And you can join Tom at 8:30 for the movies review. See you later.